This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
No evidence of Iran seeking nuclear weapons. That's according to UN nuclear watchdog's incoming chief Yukiya Amano. He says the IAEA's official documents showed no sign of diversion in Iran's civilian nuclear program. This is Amano's first direct comment on Iran after his election. He was confirmed the next Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency Thursday. Iran has reportedly said its nuclear program is peaceful and aimed at generating electricity. Iran's nuclear energy organization operates under the full supervision of the UN nuclear watchdog. The infamous private security contractor Z, formerly known as Blackwater Worldwide, has found a new venue for State Department and military services in Afghanistan. Military experts say the early weeks of Blackwater operations in Afghanistan already show signs of violence and lawlessness from Iraq. Jihan Hafiz in Washington reports.
Now that private security contracting firm Z, formerly known as Blackwater Worldwide, will not be operating in Iraq after the Iraqi government expelled the company, the former Blackwater firm is on to bigger and more expensive projects. Afghanistan is one of them, and barely 6 months into the Obama administration, Blackwater's reputation in Afghanistan is already bearing the same deadly similarities to its infamous acts of violence in Iraq. Last month, security guards working for Paravent, a subsidiary to former Blackwater Worldwide, shot and killed an Afghan civilian while wounding 2 others. The State Department is unaware of their contractors' actions in Afghanistan.
I haven't seen those reports.
Press TV asked Deputy Spokesman Ian Kelly if Z would be performing the same operations in Afghanistan for the State Department as seen during Blackwater's tenure in Iraq.
I'm not aware of the exact details of what kind of security arrangements we'll have for any kind of increased Foreign Service personnel in Afghanistan.
When asked whether the number of Z personnel in Afghanistan would surpass the number stationed in Iraq, Mr. Kelly said,
I would expect we would need increased security personnel there, but I'm just not aware of what exactly is needed.
And the Obama administration is continuing that process of using private security contractors because it's so much easier.
Experts say the system is designed to outsource contractors due to the lack of military personnel to assist operations Blackwater and other PSCs would engage in, which eventually leads to a financial dependence on private security contractors.
I mean, Obama is committed towards fighting in Afghanistan and Pakistan. And since he doesn't have enough troops, he's going to have to rely on private contractors to do most of this work.
During the campaign season, President Obama said he would not limit the role PSCs played in war zones, but will ensure accountability and transparency in all incidents. In fact, President Obama, as Senator Obama, even introduced a bill that went nowhere, calling on the U.S. government to prosecute and hold PSCs accountable for their violent behavior. But under the Obama administration, it would seem some things never change. Jihan Hafiz, Press TV, Washington.
Documents from the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, made public that the late Iraqi President Saddam Hussein said to his interrogators that he led the world to think that he had weapons of mass destruction because he was afraid to seem weak in front of his enemies, especially Iran. Aziz Al-Mursini has the details.
تفاصيل جديدة من حياة الرئيس العراقي الراحل صدام حسين ترى النور لأول مرة.
New details about the late Iraqi president Saddam Hussein see the light for the first time since his death almost 2.5 years ago. These details were revealed by FBI documents complying with the Freedom of Information Act. These documents include the official and non-official interrogation records that the Arabic-speaking FBI investigators had carried out with Saddam Hussein since his capture in December of 2003. According to the investigators, Saddam did not leave Baghdad right after the American troops invaded Iraq, but only when he thought that the capital was on the verge of falling did he leave.
إلا بعد أن رأى أن عاصمة الرشيد باتت على وشك السقوط.
Saddam said that the farm where he was captured in Durbaria, north of Baghdad, was the same farm that Abdul Karim Qasim, who was the prime minister at that time, hid 4 decades ago after a failed coup.
ومن بين التفاصيل الشخصية المثيرة التي تضمنتها الوثائق أن صدام نفى الاستخدام المزعوم لشبيه له.
Among the interesting personal details that the documents revealed, Saddam denied that he was using lookalikes, saying that those rumors were without any grounds.
ينام في المكان نفسه يومين متتاليين ولم يستخدم الهاتف.
But he confirmed to the investigators that he rarely slept in the same place 2 nights in a row, and he only used the phone twice since 1990, and he gave orders through his envoys. The documents also showed that Saddam was more concerned about Iran finding out Iraq's weakness than the UN's weapon inspectors, who were searching for weapons of mass destruction. Saddam wanted the world to think that he had these weapons as a method to repel his primary enemy, Iran. Despite questions that were raised pertaining to these documents, they remain a rich source of historical and personal details of the late Iraqi president, who preoccupied people of the world during his life and even after he passed away.
The Iraqi High Criminal Court held its first session in the trial of 33 former Iraqi officials being accused of draining the marshes of southern Iraq and displacing the local residents.
Among the key defendants are Ali Hassan Majid, Sab'awi Ibrahim, Watban Ibrahim, and Abdul Hamid Mahmoud. A number of international dignitaries are expected to give their testimonies in this case.
The Fourth Iraqi High Criminal Court held its first trial session in the case of the draining of the marshes of southern Iraq and the forceful migration against the local residents. 33 members from the former Iraqi regime are standing trial in this case.
The issue of draining Iraq's marshlands and displacing its residents is important due to the large number of defendants implicated in the case. There are 33 defendants facing criminal charges in this case. This is the first time a case of this magnitude with so many defendants is being tried in an Iraqi superior court. Among the key defendants are Ali Hassan al-Majid, Watban Ibrahim al-Hassan, Sab'awi Ibrahim al-Hassan, Iyad Fathi al-Rawi, Sabir Abd Aziz al-Duri, and Aziz Salih al-Nu'man.
Several studies and scientific research have proven that draining the marshes of southern Iraq is behind the climate change witnessed in Iraq, including desertification. This environmental issue is expected to cast a shadow over the court's proceedings. A number of witnesses from international organizations, including a commissioner from the European Union Council, are expected to take the stand.
المسطحات المائية في الجنوب وهي أهوار البصرة وميسان.
The draining of the marshes of southern Iraq, which includes those located in Basra, Nisan, and Nasriya, has reflected negatively on the environment and the issue of desertification. The court will hear the testimony of a key witness from the European Union Council. She is Baroness Emma Nixon.
عضوات المجلس الأوروبي وهي البارونة إيما نيكسون.
The court will review numerous complaints and hear the testimonies of key witnesses in the trial of 33 members from the former Iraqi regime accused of draining Iraq's southern marshland and displacing its residents. Mohammed Al-Khafaji, Iraqiya, Baghdad.
محمد الخفاجي العراقية بغداد.
Joining us from Iraq is Karim Al-Yaqoubi, the representative of the Islamic Virtue Party and the parliament member of the National Assembly of Iraq. Mr. Karim, welcome. How did the draining of the marshes of Iraq affect the areas today?
نعم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نشكر قناة العراقية على هذا اللقاء حقيقة الهدف الأساسي In
the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, I would like to thank the Iraqiya channel for giving me an opportunity to comment on this issue. The main objective behind draining the marshes of southern Iraq by the ousted regime of Saddam was to quell the Shaban uprising. The former regime wanted to carry out its vengeance against the people of southern Iraq, especially those living in the marshlands.
كذلك هناك أعداد كثيرة من الفصائل العراقية والعراقيين الشرفاء من شمال إلى جنوب.
The Marsh residents are known for their courage and their patience. They joined the resistance against the ousted regime and refused to recognize the dictator's policies. At the same time, several political factions and notable Iraqi groups across the country, especially in the north and south, joined the resistance and then took refuge in the marshes of southern Iraq. The marshes, which were planted with sugarcane and bulrush, have transformed the area into a complex web of waterways. These waterways are very difficult to maneuver by anyone not familiar with the area.
فلذلك أصدر أوامر بتجفيف الأهوار وصرف ملايين أو مليارات الدولارات.
Hence, the regime of Saddam Hussein was unable to reach and quell the resistance, so he ordered the draining of the marshes. Saddam spent billions of dollars to build the so-called Al-Qaeda River, which is a river that was deeper than both the Tigris and the Euphrates. The river extended from southern Iraq to Basra. The purpose of building the river was to drain the water from the marshes to the Al-Qaeda River. Consequently, the residents and the resistance were forced to migrate out of the area. Many were killed and many were forced to flee Iraq or relocate to other parts of the country.
At this time, Basra is welcoming its first patrol boat. Deputy Khair Allah al-Basri said that there are forces that seek to undermine any development projects to arm Iraq. The deputy said that this force, which he did not name, benefits from oil smuggling and also said that the borders remain filled with porous smuggling areas. Ali Kharaf in Basra reports on the Italian patrol boats that just arrived to Iraq.
Fatah
702 is the first patrol boat that will be added to the Iraqi naval fleet since they reconstituted the Iraqi Navy 4 years ago. This is one of 4 boats that Iraq will receive from the Italian government by the end of the year.
This is a modern ship that functions through a computer. With its current equipment, it can precisely and efficiently engage the enemy from as far as 10 kilometers. Also, this ship has the unique ability to launch boats.
Iraq agreed to buy these boats during the time of the Iran-Iraq War, but due to the conditions of war, the boats were never received. Iraq's defense minister, Abdul Qadir al-Obeidi, traveled to Italy to return the boats so that additional adjustments could be made to them.
I really thank you very much for being here today.
The Italian ambassador confirmed that Iraq can now protect its commercial and oil ports by depending on the highly advanced technology of these boats. Meanwhile, Member of Parliament Khair Allah al-Basri reiterated that the government is neglecting to restructure the Iraqi army, while there are forces that seek to undermine any project aimed at developing Iraqi military capabilities.
This ship is a patrol boat that was built to protect the oil ports and territorial waters.
Of course, there is neglect and fear to strengthen the Navy, Air Force, and the infantry, but these fears are baseless.
الحكومة العراقية أعلنت خطة من 3 مراحل لإعادة تسليح
The Iraqi government announced that it's taking the first of 3 steps planned to restructure the Iraqi Navy. The first stage will be complete at the end of 2011, and during this time, Iraq's Navy will receive all types of boats, including patrol boats and warships that will enable Iraqis to engage in clashes with any enemy from a distance of more than 20 kilometers. From Basra Port, Ali Khalaf, Al-Arabiya.
The Iranian army is conducting military maneuvers on the ground in western and southwestern Iran, designed to test operation management in classic and electronic warfare. In addition, they are testing the capabilities of military units in methods of warfare.
The ground maneuvers, named after Ali ibn Talib, peace be upon him, were conducted by the Iranian army on an area larger than 67 kilometers in southern Iran. This is the third and last day of the military maneuvers, where the ground troops and Iranian combat units are implementing methods of control and command. These troops exhibit the capability to manage the operations and tactics of classical warfare, the administration of electronic warfare, and dealing with psychological warfare, in addition to the leadership training of military and intelligence operations.
During these maneuvers, they implemented many advanced methods, taking advantage of modern equipment to manage war in the field of communication, leadership, engineering, information, training, as well as electronic and psychological warfare.
The army maneuvers come during a series of trainings for armed Iranian forces, especially ground troops, with the goal of assessing the readiness of armed forces, which are made up of troops and officers.
These maneuvers take place after each school semester when they participate in field exercises. Their goal is to evaluate the capabilities and qualifications of the officers in confronting challenges and their ability to execute missions assigned to them.
The first internal message is that Iran is continuing to strengthen its defense capabilities. The second is a message to Iran's neighboring states that these maneuvers aim to preserve security and stability in the region. The third message is to Iran's enemies that Iran will not so easily be preyed upon.
لا جديد عند المعارضة سوى رفض نتائج الانتخابات الرسمية. المرشح الإصلاحي الخاسر مير حسين موسوي.
In Iran, it seems that the opposition has nothing new to offer except to reiterate their rejection of the presidential election results. The defeated presidential candidate Mir Hossein Mousavi has described President Ahmadinejad's government as illegitimate. Mousavi called on the authorities to release those who he referred to as the sons of the revolution, who have been in police custody since the June 12th presidential elections. While the Iranian authorities are estimating the number of detainees at 1,000, the opposition is saying the figure exceeds 2,000. The defeated presidential candidate Mehdi Karoubi said he will not recognize the current government of Ahmadinejad and added that the election results are unacceptable and invalid. Karoubi's remarks were published on the website of his party's Etimad Milli newspaper, which the government shut down yesterday. Joining us from Tehran via phone is our correspondent, Rida Al-Basha. Rida, it seems that the two reformists are joining hands by voicing their opposition to the elections. They have launched media efforts to rally support for their position. Are there any new reactions on the internal front?
There have been some new reactions coming out of Tehran. Today, former President Mohammad Khatami called for the release of all detainees and renewed his support for the presidential candidate Mir Hossein Mousavi. Khatami also criticized Iran's state-run television and described it as biased. On the other hand, supporters of President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, including Iran's Basij Student Union, have called on the state chief prosecutor in Tehran to investigate opposition leader Mir Hossein Mousavi. The Basij is accusing Mousavi of several crimes, including undermining national security and disturbing the peace, in addition to committing other violations. It seems that the students of the Basij are trying to block the road to litigation, where Mir Hossein Mousavi said he will take his case.
Rida, what are the chances that the Mousavi investigation will be conducted? Are there any facts to support this claim against Mousavi?
There are no facts to support this claim against Mousavi. This is merely an attempt to block Mousavi's efforts. We're not sure whether this request will be implemented.
Where are the attempts at the reform leaders being directed, amidst demands by Karoubi that election results be invalidated and Ahmadinejad's government be delegitimized, despite that government being ratified by the Guardian Council of the Constitution?
The only channel open to the reform leaders is the legal channel, especially after the Guardian Council of the Constitution confirmed the election results. The legal avenue is the only way that the reformists can take action, as confirmed by reform leader Mir Hossein Mousavi and other reformists. The reformists confirm that they will take their grievances to the courts in an unprecedented case since the victory of the Islamic Revolution.
What about Iranian foreign diplomatic relations, especially after several Western countries threatened to pull their ambassadors out of Tehran?
The recall of some of their ambassadors is a reaction to the arrest of some members of the attaché from the British Embassy in Iran. The recall will be temporary and will only last a few days. Today, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad said his foreign policy will not change and said that he will emerge stronger in the international community. Ahmadinejad further said that these elections will help strengthen his position in the international community, more so than during the past 4 years of his presidency.
Our correspondent, Rida Al-Basha from Tehran. Thank you very much.
Iraq celebrates the withdrawal of American troops from cities and villages. More than 250 people were killed in bombings over the past 10 days. Will the enemies of Iraq succeed in igniting sectarian violence? And will democracy survive in Iraq? Answers to these questions and more on Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
As Iraqi forces took control of towns and cities across the country on June 30th, a car bomb in the northern city of Kirkuk exploded, killing at least 33 people and injuring more than 100, serving as a grim reminder of the security challenges that Iraqis face following U.S. troop pullout. Kirkuk was also the scene of 2 suicide bombings last month in which 14 people were killed. It is the center of northern Iraq's oil industry and home to a volatile mix of Kurds, Arabs, Christians, and members of the Turkmen community. Although Vice President Tariq al-Hashimi asked Iraqis to stay away from crowded places during the U.S. pullback, his appeal has largely been ignored. More than 250 people were killed in bombings over the past 10 days. Thousands of Iraqis turned up in unprecedented numbers to mark this occasion in a public holiday called National Sovereignty Day. I never thought that this day would come, said Ahmed Aliyan, a reporter for one of the local television networks. The attacks in Kirkuk are not a coincidence. This northern Iraqi city sits atop lucrative oil reserves where pipelines connect Kirkuk's oil fields to ports on Turkey's Mediterranean coast. Kirkuk has long been the prize sought after in an Arab-Kurdish competition for power and wealth, and for the many who wish to prevent stability in Iraq and wreak havoc. Kirkuk is the ideal launching pad. It was just such attacks which provoked Shia militias to take brutal revenge against Sunnis in 2006 and 2007, bringing the country to the brink of civil war and disintegration. Will the enemies of Iraq, as referred to by Noor al-Maliki, succeed? This depends on whether Iraqi forces can prevent an upsurge of violence in the period leading up to the elections in January 2010. Many skeptics worry that the U.S. withdrawal will trigger another spiral of sectarian violence similar to the one the country witnessed 3 years ago, because Iraqi forces still lack the training and capabilities to prevent it.
I'm confident that the Iraqi forces will be able to maintain security and order, God willing.
They have to take on this big responsibility which was placed on their shoulders starting today. Of course they will be tested, and we will be tested as well. We must succeed in this test.
Meanwhile, military experts anticipate more violence in the days ahead.
Today, American troops have transferred control of all Iraqi cities.
President Obama, who on the occasion of the handover said, Iraq's future is in the hands of its own people, also warned that Iraqis face difficult days ahead. Over the past several weeks, I've noticed a surge in confidence-building advertisement airing on the state television network Al-Iraqiya and the Saudi-sponsored Al-Arabiya TV, targeting Iraqis to trust their own security forces in protecting them. One such promo ran a countdown to sovereignty clock, but also broadcast promotional spots glorifying Iraqi history, culture, and people. It ran images of ordinary Iraqi citizens walking shoulder to shoulder with members of the armed forces and police on the path of freedom, as they dubbed it. The upcoming days will be a real test for the Iraqi forces. Now that the United States can take credit for restoring democracy to Iraq, is it sufficiently rooted to survive the United States withdrawal? I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mir. You can also follow me on Twitter.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.